one example. You know these grooming gangs.
Hmm.
Obviously, there is an issue. I don't think we can deny there is an issue in gangs in the Pakistani community.
Hmm.
But as me and you will know, and maybe Tommy chooses to ignore it, which is that these people who are involved in such depravities are seriously, these people who are involved in such depravities, they are not religious types. You know that, my friend. So
No.
to
Mm,
somehow, just because someone belongs to a certain faith, to sort of pick up a criminal activity of theirs and say, "Oh, they're Islamists," it's it's just foolishness. What do you say about that?
yeah, that's all taken out of proportion. Um, there's nothing Islamic about these chaps who criminals, I should say.
Yes.
They're criminals. That's how they should be treated.
Who
Not
should face the
Islam.
full force of the law, mate?
Yeah, exactly. Islam has got nothing to do with it. Nothing. Just because their identity is Islamic, or they've got Muslim names, doesn't mean they're Muslim. It's like saying James or John could be more likely to be atheist, away from Christianity. Those are Christian names. The name doesn't make you a Muslim. Um, Definitely not. So just by their behaviours, they're just paedophiles, in my opinion. They should be locked up,
Yes.
and and the media should show this, that these are criminals. They've got nothing to do with Islam, and in any criminal activity, religion should not even come into it because it's not sanctioned by religion. This type of behaviour. That's
And
what I
I
think.
think, yeah, yeah, I think the issue here is where the Orthodox religion, for instance,
Hmm.
doesn't even allow you to have a you know, extramarital or a relationship outside of marriage.
Yeah,
To say somehow that these people were going around abusing people sexually and otherwise are somehow inspired by and trying to fulfill an Islamic purpose, it's just deliberately dishonest and a very foolish and immature thing to say, you know.
I think so.
Friday is a holy day for Muslims, with hundreds of thousands gathering for the midday prayer. But today, imams at 500 mosques will deliver the same message, speaking out against child abuse.
Grooming young children for sex and exploitation of our children sexually is totally unacceptable. We must do everything possible to protect our children, preserve their dignity and honor, preserve their innocence, and keep them safe in our houses, in our streets, and in our neighborhood.
Were you involved in any sexual activities with anyone knowing, with any girl knowing they were under 13 years of age?
Today's sermons are a response to several high-profile cases involving Muslims over recent months in Oxfordshire, Rochdale, Derby and Telford. Just yesterday, these men were jailed for their parts in a sadistic sex ring abusing girls as young as 11 in Oxford.
If you even think about carrying out, committing the sort of sexual atrocities that we've seen in this case, then think again. Look over your shoulder and keep looking over your shoulder.
Gang grooming by all races is seen as a growing problem. A report by the Children's Commissioner found more than 16,000 children were identified as at risk of sexual exploitation, and just over 2,400 were confirmed as victims.
As a collective community, we need to say, what have we done wrong in 21st century world where our children are being attacked, targeted, groomed and sexually exploited by not just a few, but a large number of people, whether they're Muslims, Christians, Hindus, Sikhs or any other with faith or no faith, it makes no difference.
So as communities gather to pray, it's hoped today's message will help to expose offenders and protect others from becoming victims. Siobhan Robbins, Sky News.
These grooming gangs are un-Islamic, not just not Islamic, but they are actually un-Islamic, and that is for a variety of reasons. The first of which, these grooming gangs involved alcohol, and they involved drugs, and they involved illicit sexual intercourse. And they also, of course, some of them involved physical threats of violence, etc. Now, there are clear verses in the Quran which prohibit the consumption of alcohol. Of them is chapter 2, verse number 219 in the Quran, and the translation, the meaning of which is, they ask you about intoxicants and games of chance. Say, in both of them there is a great sin. So the Quran clearly states that any form of intoxicant, the consumption of which is a great sin. Now let's get to the verse. Of course, that's my evidence for the prohibition of alcohol and drugs in Islam, which these grooming gangs did. Now let's get to the evidence of the prohibition of illicit sexual intercourse. So in chapter number 17, verse number 32 of the Quran, it says, "And do not approach unlawful sexual intercourse. Indeed, it is ever an immorality and is evil as a way." Now, these verses and the evidence that I've brought clearly prove that grooming gangs is an un-Islamic thing.
You're disgusting. You should be ashamed of yourselves. You're animals. What is wrong with you guys? What is wrong with you? Imagine if that was your little sister, your little daughter, your granddaughter, or your little niece being passed around from one bloke to another. Imagine that, just being passed around like a piece of meat. How would you feel? How would you flipping feel? You know, if that was me, you know what I'd do to people like you? That is a solution. That is a solution. But you're lucky. We live in England. The laws are soft on people like you. You should be ashamed of yourselves. And brothers, if you find out people like this are doing this stuff in the community, serve them good and proper. Deal with them good and proper and hand them into the old bill straight away. Because they're bringing shame to us. Flipping filthy animals. You make us sick. And the media, when you're reporting, make it factual. Don't leave bits out. For example, the Rotherham case. Those poor girls, those 1,400 poor girls that were abused. You forgot to report that 68% of the groomers were white. According to the Public Health Rotherham report, 68% were white. So be factual. Don't call them Muslim grooming gangs as well, because there's nothing Muslim about them. They're only Muslim by name. You don't call groomers that are caught Christian grooming gangs or atheist grooming gangs. So leave religion out of it. A nonce is a nonce. A pedo is a pedo. And that's the solution, in my eyes.